Today we are discussing the cultural and physical and mechanical methods. An average crop losses due to the pests range between the 30 to 60% with complete the crop failure. Crop will occurring the pest attack the soil. These losses vary according to the crop type, climate, timing the practice and other variable. It is the essential that the pests be controlled so that the damage of the crop minimized. The concept of the pest management was proposed by 1961 Gare and Clark. The disease control follows the two main principles: prevention and cure. These are the very important prevention and cure. These two techniques are the controlling of the disease, prevention and the cure. Wedgel 1929 was the first to classify the methods for the control diseases: exclusion, eradication, protection, and resistance. And later two more methods are the include the avoidance and therapy. Pest preventive methods. What are the pest preventive methods? The pest preventive managed are prevented by several methods. Preventive are prophylaxis methods. Methods are the give protection to the host from the infection and exposed to the pathogen or pest, cultural, mechanical, and physical, and regularity, genetic, and immunity. Curative methods. These methods are the involves the destruction of the pathogen or pest after it has the gained entry on into the host. Chemical and biological methods. The genetic and biological methods are cultural methods are the agronomic practices. Cultural methods are generally followed the consciously or unconsciously to improve wild of the crop by reducing the pest numbers. Using a specific method may the describes pest population while increasing and another. Sometimes this practice may effectively control the pest, but at the same way decrease the yield. Its aim is the helping plants avoid the contact with the pathogen, creating the environmental condition unfavorable to the pathogen pest and the avoiding the favorable ones. Its aim helping of the plants avoid the contact with the pathogen, creating environmental condition unfavorable to the pathogen. Pests are the avoiding the favorable ones and the eradicating, reducing the amount of the pathogen pest in plant, field, and area. Some examples of the ploughing of tillage of the fields, cultivation and tillage. Suppose helps the controlling the soil inhibiting forms, the field crops and pests, bringing larvae and the pupae onto the soil surface, thereby the exposing of the desiccation and the predation, freezing and the thawing, damaging of the pests, its soil inhibiting phase, like the wireworms, destroying the crop residues, which is the mite harbor pest that is could be invaded the new crops, buying the residues. So if there is the emergency from the eggs or the pupa is made impossible. Synchronous planting of the crop fields. This involves the variation in time of the planting or harvesting of crops. This method of helps the preventing and continuous expansion of the pest population over long periods of the cropping. It also reduces the migration of the pests to the fields planted at the later date. Intercropping the planting various types of the different crops within the same area diversifies the habitat availability and may inhibit the expansion of the pests and the pathogen. Crop rotation is a fundamental disease management practice. The growing the same crop. This method helps in the preventing the continued expansion of the pest population over long time periods of the cropping. It also reduces the migration of the pest into the fields planted at the later date. Intercropping, planting various types of the different crops within the same area, diversifies the habitat availability and may inhibit the expansion of pests and the pathogens. Crop rotation. It is a fundamental disease management practice. Growing the same way crop in the yield year after year encourages the build-up of the pathogens. If same crop crop rotation method is a fundamental disease management practice. Growing the same crop in the field year after year encourages the build of the pathogen. If the same crop is grown year after the year, the same soil, field, the fungus have the chance to increase the very much. This practice is followed to the prevent the growth and expansion of the pest and the pathogen population. Soil-borne pathogens infect the plants of one or few species, or even the families of the plants can sometimes be reduced in the soil by planting for 3 to 4 years. Crops belong to the species or families not attacked by the particular pathogen in this method. Several types of the different crops are the planted within the same area. Growing the crops to get the good yield is not the possible unless the rotation of the crops is practiced. Selecting resistant varieties. Some soil-borne pathogens like the Fusarium or Verticolum produce the long-lived spores or can live as the saprophytic for more than the 5 to 6 years. Crop rotation becomes the less effective or impractical, but crop rotation can still reduce the population of the pathogens in the soil every third of the fourth year of the rotation. Pruning or the thinning and the proper spacing. Removing the infected tissue eliminates a source of the infectious material, promote the more vigorous plant growth, increase air circulation, help in the disease management. Pruning will help in the increasing light and the air circulation that reduce the humidity and minimizes infection. Pruning all diseases and the dead wood will destroy the major portion of the inoculum. Less spraying are necessary when the source of the infection has been removed. Judicious and the balanced use of the fertilizers. Proper fertility is the another important cultural practice for the disease control. Properly is the fertilized plants are the generally more resistant to pest attack than the other fertilized or over fertilized plants. Next one is the trimming of tillage and the fertilization. Operations may affect the pest favorably or unfavorably. Fertilization promotes the rapid growth and shortness of the successful stage, gives the better tolerance to and the opportunity to compensate you for the pest damage. Trace mineral and the plant hormones trace have been found to reduce the damage by the certain pests, and the particularly sucking of the pests such as some aphids and the mites. Water management. Moisture is the most important limiting factor that affects the survival of the some pests. Poor soil drainage can be create the environment unfavorable to the certain root rot diseases. Therefore, the improving the soil structure and the drainage can avoid some root rot diseases. If sufficient water is available, flooding is occasionally used for the insects and the nematode control. The flooding water is available. Flooding is occasionally used for the insects and the nematode control. Flooding of infected soils has been used to eliminate certain species of the wireworm within the 3 days. Certain other wireworm, the species are unable to withstand dissection, where these wireworms occur drying out of the soil is an effective control measure. The spacing plants properly in the field or greenhouse check high humidity conditions on plant surfaces and inhibit the infection by certain pathogens. Such botrytis and the Pernosporea turbanica, good soil drainage is also reduce the number of and activity of certain humicid pathogens like pythium and nematodes and maybe results in different disease control. Sterilization by the physical methods like the flooding, solar heating, steam, hot water methods help to kill the reduce the inoculum to the minimum. In addition, the inoculum transmits through the storage areas, graveyard, yields, and the regard. Chemical treatment of the soil, another practice that helps reducing the soil-borne inoculum before planting. Sanitation consists of all activities aimed at the eliminating or reducing the amount of the inoculum present in a plant or field or the warehouse, and at the preventing the spread of the pathogen to other healthy plants and the plant products. Generally, pathogens overwinter or over summer on the leftovers to previous crop from the soil. Weeds perennial hosts and the seeds. All this the farm good source of the primary inoculum. The destruction of inoculum in any farm is important to prevent the pest occurrence. This is achieved by the removing and burning of the refuse. Destroys the disease plant material, weeds and insects effectively. Sanitation has the broad applicability to be the most effective. It requires knowledge of the habits of the pest species and the careful timing in it involves crop residues distraction. This method is used to the reduce the pest infection through the removal of the breeding and the hibernating sites. Eradication of the harmful weed hosts or the alternative hosts. Most weeds, the rest of the plant pathogenic bacteria, most plant viruses in plant debris, and the most insects are the kill about the 82 degrees centigrade. Heat tolerant weed seeds and some of the plant viruses such as the tobacco mosaic viruses are killed at the near the boiling point is between the 95 to 100 degrees centigrade. High temperature also have the ill effects like the releasing toxic levels, the magnesium salts, and the accumulation of the ammonium killing nitrifying bacteria. Timely destruction of the crop residues and expense the cleaning of the field borders of alternate waste and the removal of the scrap and shelter in which pests hide up the on orchards and destruction the cull of the dropped fruits at the pupation sites for the colding moth, apple, maggot, and the plum curriculum may be achieved by the means of the livestock and the succession or cultivation the equipment. Washing hands and the before handling of the certain kinds of the plants may reduce the spread of the tobacco mosaic viruses. Frequent disinfecting of the knives, the pruning shears is the reduce the spread of the pathogen through such tools. Washing the soil of farm equipment before the moving it from the one field to another may also help the prevent of the spread any pathogens present in the soil. Similarly, by the washing and containers and the walls of the storage houses often with the chlorinated water lessen the amount of the inoculum and subsequent infections may be reduced considerably. Mechanical methods and hand destruction and exclusion by the barriers is of the traps. Traps is the polythene traps is the mulches as the useful to control many plant viruses such as the cucumber mosaic viruses brought into the crops such as the peppers by the airborne aphid vectors and vertical sticky yellow polythene sheets are the eradicated along the edges of the susceptibility crops and the considerable the number of aphids are attract to the sticky plastic. This is done the primarily to trap and the monitor incoming insects, but to some extent it is also reduce the amount of the viruses inoculum reaching of the crop. However, if reflecting the aluminum or black, whitish gray is the colored, the polythene sheets are the used as the mulches between the plants or the rows in the field. Incoming aphids in the thrips and the possibly other insect vectors are the repelled and the mislead the way from the field. As a result, fewer viruses carrying the vectors land on the plants. The fewer plants are become the infected with viruses, reflecting the mulches. However, the case the infection of the crop can be of worse. Different types of the traps are used to control insects. For example, fly traps, trap strips. The uses of the fly paper is the sticky boards or the tools help the capture insects when they land upon the surface of the trap. These traps are covered within the substances that attract the insects. The plants also use the against the nematodes, although the different ways. Some plants that are not actually susceptible to certain the sedentary plant parasitic nematodes produce the exudate that the stimulate the exercise the nematodes to hatch. The juveniles enter these plants but are unable to develop into adults and eventually they die. Such plants are also called the trap crops. By using the trap crops or crop rotation program, growers can reduce the nematode population in the soil. For example, Crotalaria plants trap the juvenile for the root knot nematode Merodeogane species, and the black nightshade plants Solanum nigrum reduce the population of the golden nematode Heterodora process. Some plants like the asparagus and the marigolds are also called antagonistic crop, which is the helpful in the controlling infection of the nematodes because they release the substances in the soil that are the toxic to survival plant parasitic nematodes. Antagonistic plants decrease the number of nematodes in the soil when interplanted with the nematodes successfully crops and the roots are the successfully crops. Physical method application of heat, hot water treatment. Physical methods are most commonly used the controlling of the plant disease and temperature, dry air, unfavorable light valence, and the various types of the radiation, application of heat, hot water treatment. Soil is the sterilites in the greenhouses, seed beds with the aerated steam, hot water, nematodes, water molds, and the humidities are the controlled at the 50 degrees C. Most of the plant pathogenic fungi and the bacteria, some worms, slugs, and the centipedes are the mostly killed at the temperature between the 60 to 70 degrees centigrades. The majority of the weeds, the other plant pathogenic is controlled about the 82 degrees. The bacteria, most plant viruses in plant debris, the most insects are the kill, heat tolerant weeds, seeds, and some plant viruses such as the tobacco mosaic viruses. Certain seeds, bulbs, and the nursery stock infected with the inoculum are present inside the seed coats, bulbs, scales, etc., which may be present in the external surface or the wounds or the made free the inoculum with the hot water treatment, seed treatment with the hot water at 52 degrees into 11 minutes was used the only means the control many years seed kept in the hot water like in the loose of the smut of cereals is the fungus overwinters at the mycelium inside the seed where the could not be reached by the chemicals. Water during of the harvested years of the corn, leaves and the some so on with the hot air removes the excessive moisture from them and the protects from the attack of the fungal and the bacterial sporophytes. The same way, a dry heat treatment of the barley seed 72 and 7 to 10 days eliminates the leaf streak and the black chopping cause of the bacterium, Janto, Chatamonas, pesticides and translates from the seed with the negligibly reduction seed germinator. Soil solarization. This most of the effective method when the clear polythene is the placed over the moist soil during the sunny summer days. The temperature at the top 5 centimeters of the soil may reach the high is the 52 degrees compared to the maximum of 37 degrees unmulched soil. If sunny weather the continue for the several days, the weeks, the increased soil temperature from the solar heat, known as the solarization, inactivates many soil-borne pathogens, fungi, nematodes, and the bacteria near the soil surface, thereby reducing the inoculum and the potential of for the diseases. Exposing of the infested the grain to sun. All grains, legumes, and the nuts carry the variety and the number of pathogens that can cause the decay in the presence of the sufficient moisture. This harmful effect can be avoided. The produce the rested after proper maturity and then are allowed to the dry in the air, hot sun, or the are treated with the heated air until the moisture content is the reduced sufficiently the before storage. Subsequently, the products are stored under the conditions of the ventilation. They do not allow the build up the moisture levels about the 12% that would allow the storage fungi to become activated. Employing of the superheating the empty godowns at the 50 degrees centigrade till the hibernating stored grain the best also recommended, especially manipulation of the moisture, reduce the moisture content and grains helps the prevent from the dark stored the grain. Yes. Energy light traps are basically prepared the principle that the most of the night flying insects attract towards the lighthouse. Light traps are the widely used in the survey the natural moths. These are the very effective in controlling armyworm, bugs, cutworm, files, and the gants, bollworms, leafhoppers, planthoppers, and the stem borers. Light traps without the ultraviolet light attract certain insects తిరుమల పోలేదా?
అయితే ఇప్పుడు పండుగ పోతుంది కదా, మంచిగా కాదు. పండుగ పోతుంది కదా, సాయంత్రం అంటే ఆ సారు వాళ్ళ పిల్లలు వాళ్ళ స్టూడెంట్స్ ఇట్లా తీసుకున్నారు, మొత్తం కలిసి కూడా 800 అయ్యాయి. నేను పే చేస్తా సార్ అన్న.
పెడతలే
ఏమైనా పెడతాడు. ఒక సాబుదానం ఉంటుంది కదా ఆడ, 30 రూపాయలు ఒకటి. అవి చెరొకటి తీసుకో, ఏమొద్దు నాకు.
సాబదానా
బాగుంటది లిక్విడ్.
సాబదానా
ఇట్లా జ్యూస్ టైప్ ఇస్తాడు, ఇట్లా గ్లాస్ లా. మన ఇంతే కదా కొత్త గిన్నె ఉంటుంది కదా, దాని లెక్క ఉంటది, భలే బాగుంటది. అదొక్కటి చెరొకటి తీసుకోన్నాడు. అది మాత్రం ఇప్పుడు నా పిహెచ్డి అవార్డు చేసిన పేరులో 30 రూపాయల సాబుదానం మాత్రం నాకు ఇస్తారు.
పెడతాడులే కానీ ఎన్నో అంటాడు కదా ఇక.
నాకేం పెట్టలే, ఏం పెట్టలే, నేను ఇంత కూడా తీసుకోలే. నాకు పెట్టినట్టు నేను ఇంత కూడా తీసుకోలే.
పెట్టినట్ట అందరి ముందర అలా భోజనాలు పెట్టినట్టు.
అక్కడ కొంచెం అసెంషల్ మనసు కానీ బేసికల్ మంచి టెక్నికల్ గా తేడా. బేసికల్ మంచోడు. ఇప్పుడు అదే పేపర్ పబ్లికేషన్ సార్
వాస్తవం నాతో మంచిగా ఉన్నంత ఎవరితో ఉండకపోయింది సార్.
నిజంగా ఎప్పుడైతే మన కాడ లొల్లి అయిందో అక్కడి నుంచి వెళ్ళి
నాతో అంత మంచిగా
నాతో కూడా
ఎవరితో ఉండకపోయేది.
నాకు కూడా తెలుసా, నరేందర్ ఇట్లుంటది ట్రాక్టర్ మీద ఇచ్చిన వానికి వాడి నాన్న
వాస్తవం మంచిగా ఉండేది నాతో.
మంచిగా చెప్తుండే సబ్జెక్ట్ ఇట్లా.
ఎప్పుడైతే
అప్పటి నుంచి జల్లి ఉంటాడు. ఇదైతే క్లాస్ అయిపోయిందా?
ఆడు నేనే ఉన్నాం. ఆడు కూడా పోయింది ఇప్పుడు. వస్తాడు మళ్ళీ వస్తాడు ఫీల్ అవుతాడు మళ్ళీ రాదు. నేను ఆడే ఉన్నాను ఈ ఇంగ్లీష్ న్యూస్ పేపర్.
అది వాడు ఇప్పుడు నువ్వు చెప్తున్నావు, వాడు లేనప్పుడు నువ్వేం చేస్తావు మరి?